Cocktail Sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate you guys coming out on a beautiful night like tonight to see us again. It feels like it was just yesterday we were here, and we're super excited to be back, so welcome back and thank you. I'm Frank Gruber. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tech Cocktail. We're a media company. We cover tech startups around the country. We do events like this. You can find out what else we're doing at tech.co. We cover things hyper-locally, so if you go to tech.co/Chicago, you can find out just about Chicago stuff. But if you like other cities too, and you want to find out what's going on in DC or Las Vegas or Miami, you can go to there and find out what's going on there too. And we cover and kind of cross-pollinate the different things, all the different things that are happening in these different cities. So. Trying to be a resource for everyone who's starting up, running a business here in Chicago and elsewhere as well. All right, so let's see. If you're tweeting, how many people are tweeting tonight? 2 people, 1 person. No, 2 people, 2 people. Good. We got 2 tweeters in the house. We're using hashtag TechCocktailChai, C-H-I, as well as TechCocktailChai at TechCocktailChai as well. So we'll be rotating around. We also got some of our speakers will have their names on their slides as well, so if you're trying to find out what their name on Twitter is, it's pretty easy up there for you to find. What else? We couldn't do this without the support of our sponsors. So our big partner in our events in Chicago is Cars.com. So let's hear it for Cars.com. We're going to hear from them a little bit in a moment, but we've done a number of events with them, speaker-style events, and it's been great. We get great turnouts, and we like to try to help talk about a specific topic. So tonight's topic is actually disruption, and so we're going to talk about disruption in a couple different industries, and we're going to have a chance for you guys to also ask questions. So think about your questions as we go, and we'll be able to hopefully get them answered tonight. We also have a few more partners that we work with. We've got Hoffman Media. They're filming tonight, so if you see the cameras and the lights, that's what's going on. The videos will be on tech.co. They'll also be on Tech Cocktail's media channels, so like YouTube and things like that, so you'll be able to find them and watch them later over and over again for hours of enjoyment. We've also got FR&R as a community partner, Sabre Law as a community partner, Genexus USA is a community partner, and then we've got a couple of national partners that we work with everywhere. So American Airlines is a big partner of ours. They get us where we need to go, and they want to work with businesses, business flyers. So if you have flown or like to fly or want to fly a lot for business, they've got a pretty good program that will be able to help you out. You guys flew American, didn't you? All right, there you go. So also .co, if we're at tech.co, it's a lot shorter than tech.co or tech.com or tech.info or anything else. So it saves people a lot of time, like yourselves, as you go to the website every single day. And also, .co has offered the ability for you to have get a chance to get domains that you may not be able to get, at .com or something. So it's a good. If you haven't checked .co out, you might want to do that. And let's see, what else? Well, we're super excited about our speakers coming in today. We've got a couple of great ones, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But before so, I wanted to bring up Bill Swislow from Cars.com. He's got a little bit of a fun story for our first speaker, Ben Ha. So watch your step. I know it's a tricky one. See, they always say it's a doozy. There you go. So I think we've got some slides. I don't know who's going to cue the slides in the back there. This will be fun. Yeah. So Bill, you've been at Cars for a while.
Yeah, so hi, I've been with Cars since 1997 when we started the company. So go back a long way. And as a sponsor of Tech Cocktail, we love to hog the spotlight and get our moment up here to talk. But really, I'm here to share some obscurities from the archive. So a little known fact is early in Ben Ha's career, what were your first job out of college? First job out of college, Ben was a designer at Cars.com. He designed a lot of Cars.com. There's our key product details page, our news page. There's a little puzzle game that I think he must have come up with on his own. Just wonderful stuff. We loved him. If you go to the next slide, these are just some emails. So someone sent his portfolio, which unfortunately I went to the Internet Wayback Machine and it's not available online anymore. My comment was pretty impressive. Next slide. So we hired him. Outrageously, he demanded a computer that had a 600 megahertz CPU and a special video card. Wow. And our purchasing person said, "Why would anyone need this?" But the answer was from our art director is, literally, if you can read that, this guy is the best designer I've ever worked with, and he is unbelievably fast. which I'm sure his later employees appreciated that quality of Ben. But we loved him. Next slide, we tried to keep him. I begged my boss, can we get options for this guy? Because in those days, even Cars.com was playing around with options. It wasn't enough. Next slide, end of the year, he said, I have better things to do. He actually must have thought that spreading the gospel of fuzzy kittens is more important than flogging used cars. And I cannot say I disagree with that. And even if he hadn't been involved in creating Circa, I would still say he did something that warranted our respect and interest, which is why I'm going to get off the stage so that we can hear from Ben.
Thanks so much, Bill. Really appreciate it. That was fun. All right. All right, so without further ado, we're going to have our first speaker come on up here, Ben Hoff. We got the mic over here. First step, sit here, and have you sit over here.
All right.
Right there, right
sure.
There? Okay. So I didn't know that was coming, actually.
I didn't know that either. I mean, Bill kind of mentioned it when I was coming up the stairs here, but I didn't know how embarrassing it would be because I don't remember any of that. Like it was like a beer college field haze. Actually, technically speaking, Cars.com hired me while I was still in school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was graduating and they're like, we need you right away. And I was like, sure, I'll work out of my bedroom if you give me a giant Mac.
Oh, wow.
So that's how that thing came about.
Oh, wow. So you were negotiating for the Mac out of your dorm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That thing crashed every 10 minutes. It was the old Macs. Yeah.
So, all right, so that kind of dives in. So you got some Chicagoers, and you went to Northwestern, you worked for Cars.com for a little while.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with these flags. We're in the wrong town for this.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that stands for.
Yeah, I don't either.
Let's come up with something.
Yeah.
So you were here for a while. Then let's talk about what your next step was. You left to go do something else.
Yeah. So that little resignation letter, I left to build a company that did web analytics. So it was supposed to be like sample-based, panel-based web analytics, and I had no idea what I was doing. I made some money doing web development work on the side, so I actually leveraged that money and ended up raising like a friends and family round for another like $250K, raised another angel round for another $250 for like $500,000, and I did everything wrong. Right? It's like everybody I talked to said, you'll raise too little money, you'll do it too slowly, you won't spend enough time building a product, and you won't have enough sales. And I was like, bullshit. Right? It's like I was 23 years old, I had tons of bravado, and then
you just knew better.
I just knew better, right? Everybody does. 18 months later, promptly, we shut it down. We ran out of money, and then the stock market crashed. We're in the middle of $1 million angel round, and people are like, oh, if you get the rest of the, like, if you get $500,000, I'll put in my 50 or whatever. All that went away in a heartbeat. And then actually, oh, it's funny, it's like the evening of employers past. Kurt Hansen from AccuRadio over here, raise your hand. That's Kurt. Kurt gave me a job. Yeah, so I ended up working for Kurt for a while. And then, I just kind of still stayed with some startups.
We had no idea. This is just happening.
Yeah, it's a reunion. We're going to all do shots later in the back.
Okay, so you did that for a little while, did everything wrong, but also it sounds like you learned quite a bit.
I learned a lot. The thing that I learned the most is like, you can't undercount the importance of having revenue. You can't undercount the importance of actually raising enough money. So like the financial side really imparted a deep scar, right? So I managed to use that kind of positively when I started Cheezburger.
Okay. So how long after that did you go out and do your next thing? So I worked for Kurt for about 8 months until we couldn't stand each other, right? I think it was about 8 months, yeah. And then I went to go work at Install Shield for about 2.5 years. Yeah, Install Shield, yeah. And then I got fired from Install Shield. So that was a lesson learned too.
So if you guys are having a terrible career, it's okay. You can probably be better than mine. So Install Shield got acquired by this company called Macrovision, which did DRM software. And I'm like, DRM? I don't want to be involved with the man. I mean, there's the man, and then there's people who write DRM, right? And so we got acquired, and then I decided that I was going to stop showing up for work. Like, literally, I stopped. It's like the scene out of Office Space. So I just stopped doing that. And one day, there was a company event in Santa Clara. I came out there, and they said, hey, my manager emails me and said, hey, why don't you come to this room and make sure you bring your laptop. And I was like, sweet, I'm getting fired. So I came into the room with my laptop.
So you actually wanted to get fired?
I wanted to get fired. I didn't want to work there anymore. In hindsight, it's not the best ethical thing to do. I should have just left and turned in a resignation letter, but I had just been given a uber top level performance evaluation. They offered me a promotion and a raise, which I turned down because I thought it was unfair, it wasn't good enough. And so like I knew that they weren't going to be able to fire me without a severance. So I walked in, and it's the CFO, my manager on one side of the table, and me and my laptop. And I sit down, and they say, Ben, I'm really sorry to tell you that we're going to terminate you today. And I said, awesome. Here's my laptop, here's my password. I've deleted everything already. What else do you guys need? And literally the CFO was like, okay, we're good to go.
So you were ready?
I was ready, yeah.
And then you started doing your own thing.
And then I was unemployed.
Yeah. For how long?
Yeah. Emily, how long was I? 6 months? 6 months,
Was that a fun 6 months?
Yeah, we got engaged. So I got fired, and then I proposed. She's like, I guess. And then I took a job out in Seattle, and then she came along.
Okay. And so you were doing something out in Seattle where were you working out there?
So I work for a little touchscreen software company called Intava, which is like, you guys ever go to like a Sprint store like 10 years ago and like you could like buy ringtones off of a touchscreen?
Yeah.
Like we did that. So this is like before you could do multi-touch, right? So it wasn't a touchscreen, it was a punch screen. Like it only accepted one dot at a time. So if you just randomly punched it, it would just like randomly pick something for you. So technology back then for touchscreens weren't very good, but we were doing really amazing animations and motion graphics and stuff like that. I was brought in to actually create a product out of their service division, and I ended up becoming a glorified account manager, and so that kind of sucked.
So you didn't like to do that anymore?
No, so I spent about 2.5 years doing that, and that's when Cheezburger started right afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. So what was the kind of point where like, okay, I got to start Cheezburger? What was that? What did that look like?
So this company had one client, and I was the interface with the one client. And that, on the client side at Sprint, there was one person whose job was to interface with us.
Yeah.
And so after you work with somebody for 2 years, like your job gets simpler and simpler and simpler, which is like, hey, here's all the stuff that you wanted us to build.
Right.
Guess what I'm gonna tell you? You can't build all of it. Nope, that's correct. She's like, okay, here's the real minimum of what we expect from you. Can you do over that? I'm like, sure. And so we like have this negotiation process. And it took about an hour a week. And
so you had a lot of free time.
I had a lot of free time.
Yeah.
And when you have a lot of free time and you want to do other stuff in the company and the company doesn't let you, you're just like, I'm out.
Right.
And so that's what really caused me to leave. And when I left, this is kind of funny, the VP of sales was a good friend of mine. So on my way out, I told everybody what I was going to do. So I raised investment money. I bought this cat picture website called I Can Has Cheezburger. No, it's Cheezburger's not spelled like that. It's with a Z, with no third E. And people were like, what? I get that. And the CEO actually said to my friend, the VP of sales, he'll be back here in 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was like, you asshole. So that was kind of like a chip on my shoulder to never go back to that company, even if I was starving.
Right.
So, and that, kind of, a lot of entrepreneurs, part of this is our vision to disrupt and to build great things, right. But part of this is because we're just stubborn assholes who don't want to go back to doing what we were doing before. Right. Because at some point you become practically unemployable. Right. So, as I've proven.
Through your many jobs.
Being fired and having a fallout with your boss and all that stuff, yeah.
All right, so Cheezburger. So is it, you started Cheezburger. Is it what it is today, what you thought it would be?
Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear. The question is Cheezburger what it is that I thought it would be?
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how far from my imagination this company's become. Like, it's ridiculous. I actually went on stage at a conference in 2008 and said, I can't ever imagine us having more than like 10 sites, because that'd be a real pain in the ass to manage.
Right.
Like, we ended up having like 50 some sites. We built our own infrastructure. We were at one point the largest website hosted by WordPress.com.
Wow. It
was like us and like Time Magazine and CNN and they're like the cat picture website's kicking everybody else's ass. Yeah. And then we could build our own platform. So we then took all this traffic that we didn't have to manage and host and look after, and then we put on our own infrastructure, which then crapped out, and then we had to rebuild the infrastructure. And so like the ups and downs of startups are incredibly long. And what's interesting is that like your liability today may become an asset tomorrow, and you kind of don't know. And I've been doing this for 7 years now, and what I'm trying to do is be as even-keeled as possible. Right, trying to not jerk my team around so that they can't focus on one thing, but to give them a destination and say, I don't actually know how we're going to get there. Yeah. Like, I actually don't have a strategy for getting there. We need to come up with it together. It's not my job. Yeah, it's not my job to give them the answer or even interfere with their strategy. As long as they're communicating and working well together, then we will get there. My job is to make sure that our company culture is great, that we have enough money in the bank, that I'm advocating for the customer and the long-term interests of the company.
Right. So let's talk about that culture. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been highlighted. You guys had a TV show, was it a year ago or a year and a half
Yeah, something
ago?
like that. Yeah, Bravo. Yeah.
So it kind of did the behind this. For those of you who didn't know, it was behind the scenes, kind of looking at their day-to-day. What's your culture like? Just give a kind of quick snapshot.
So the Cheezburger culture, the best way for me to describe our culture is what I call a reverse mullet. So a mullet is party in the back, business in the front.
Right.
For us, it's the other way around. It's party in the front, business in the back. So to the rest of the world, it seems like we're having fun, we're goofy, we're quirky, we're just posting random shit on the internet, right? And seeing if it sticks. But the back end, the analytics, the technology, the amount of like care and attention people spend about our users and what we're putting out, and the experiments that are running, that's the fun part.
So did you guys come up with that? I mean, does that culture come from you and Emily? And I mean, how did it start?
So the company culture got started with the mission statement. So when we first started our business, if you're posting cat photos on the internet and trying to make a living, your only mission in life is to stay alive, right? It's not a viable business. Nobody thought it was a viable business back in 2007. In fact, when we started the company, it was September of 2007. Does anyone remember when the recession started? Right? So I quit my six-figure job to post cat photos on the internet when the recession started. So all you're trying to do is not die. Okay. So then somebody emails you and says, hey, you're awesome, your site makes me happy, it lets me get through my shitty day at work.
Right.
Cool. You get another email and a letter. And at the end of the day, you're like, is this what we do? Like, maybe this is our job, to make people happy for a few minutes every day.
Yeah.
And we literally took it verbatim and made it our mission statement.
To make people happy every day.
We make people happy for a few moments every day. That is our mission statement. And what was amazing about that was, it's kind of like Google's statement, right? To organize all the information in the world, right? So it's never possible, but the striving towards the mission is really important.
So your mission is what has caused you to be a disruptor in the industry, right? I mean, but it's funny that it revolves around happiness.
Yeah, because I understand the type of happiness we're providing is very superficial. It's like kind of this momentary hit of like whatever those serotonin things are in your brain.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating about having this mission and stating it over and over and over again was that people who applied for jobs at the company, every single person who came through our doors to apply for a job already knew our mission statement by heart.
Yeah.
We didn't have to tell them. There are no posters of our mission statement in our office. There's none of that.
Right.
There's zero marketing involved in getting people to think like the rest of the company. And so it's been super helpful in recruiting and actually getting the company to gel together.
Right. And you started with just cats, right?
Yeah, so we started out with I Can As Cheezburger, then we added a dog site, then a graph site, then a political humor website.
Right.
In fact, there's actually a section in the book, Game Change, when Valerie Jarrett shows Barack Obama a quote-unquote photo from the internet, even though it clearly has our watermark underneath it. And this is during Palin Mania, and it's a picture of Barack Obama at a podium pointing straight into the camera, and the caption said, "Chill the fuck out, I got this." And so literally in the book, Valerie Jarrett prints this out, shows it to the future president of the United States, and he goes, "That's what I'm talking about." And I remember I was reading this book in the middle of the night in New York, and I like sat up straight in the bed, and I woke up and I'm like, the president's seeing one of our photos. It's awesome.
And he's agreeing with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys kind of, I don't know if you were the first ever, but a lot of folks think you were the first to kind of start the meme, if you will. And now you've even seen like things like I don't know if you look at your news feed lately, but it's pretty much everyone dumping ice water on the head.
Sure, yeah.
So tell us, like, how did that get started? How did the first memes kind of get started with that?
So if you think about a meme actually isn't what you think it is.
Right.
A meme is any idea that is spread from person to person. That's the Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene, 1976 book definition of meme. What we call internet memes are what's called an image macro, an image with a caption on the top and the bottom. And a meme is like a repeatable version of that, right? So I'm just kind of being geeky here. It's my profession. This is what I do for a living.
Break it down for us.
Yeah. And so we weren't the first to create it because it kind of can't be created by a person. But if you think about internet culture, 4chan, those people who hack photos. That community actually kind of popularized it among them. And from there, it spread to other forums. We were basically the first to kind of bring it to the mainstream, make it accessible, almost Disneyfying that structure.
Right. Now you're seeing others follow. So you've got things like BuzzFeed that started doing them. Pretty much, isn't there's apps that create them?
That's right. So there's plenty of ways to do what we do, right? So the barrier to entry is almost zero in media today. There's very, very little that's needed to actually start a media company. So one of the things that we've learned through the process is that every time there's a new device on the market that is popular, it changes the behavior of the people who are using that device to consume content. So each one of those device adoption inflection points are an opportunity for us to actually rethink what is entertainment, what is humor for this group of people that are using this new device. And so, about 9 months ago, we went to majority mobile traffic. And so Cheezburger, which is at that point, a 6-year-old company, had to go from, we're building stuff like websites, to we are now a mobile company. It's hard for mobile companies to start from mobile just because there's no history, not a lot of experience. It's very difficult to take an existing organization who has a core competence and then say, we're going to be mobile.
Mobile first.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a mantra that's almost like said so often that it loses meaning unless the executive leadership starts to take action behind what it means to be mobile first.
So what does it mean for you guys?
That means we need to figure out how to innovate on the mobile space, looking at the competitive environment of mobile and seeing how we can serve our customers better instead of focusing on the website first.
Right. Okay. So you've been doing this for a while. You've raised some money. You have Brad Feld's one of your investors.
Yeah, so Brad Feld from Foundry Group is one of our investors. Avalon, SoftBank, and Madrona are the other three.
Right. So obviously you got to manage those relationships. Your team had grown pretty big, and I think last year you had to do a little bit of change. We
went from me with my dog on my couch, my PJs, to about 100 people. Wow. And then we had some attrition, and we actually cut the company by about a third. Right. And so I think our lowest point, we were down to about 40 people. Wow. And now we're back to about 50.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And so while you've been doing that, you also started another company too.
Yeah, so it wasn't the downturn when I started it. It wasn't like I was trying to jet. I had this other idea. Yeah, this is actually fascinating because I learned something about myself. Every 3 years or 4 years, I kind of need to do something else. Right. And so I had an idea that I felt like the mobile news consumption experience was broken. And so I took the things that I learned from Cheezburger, coiled it into kind of a theory about media, and then said, hey, I'm going to give this away. Which other entrepreneur wants to work on this with me? I don't want to be working at your company. I still have a day job that I love and I want to run, but I'm willing to give away this idea. Yeah. And so I went to Techstars. They have an annual conference in Las Vegas, and I was trying to give it away to one of the Techstars companies or the incubators. And Matt Galligan, who's a serial entrepreneur in the back, kind of calls me over later and says, hey, would you mind if we talked about this? Because I'm kind of looking for my next thing. Right. So Matt became co-founder and CEO of that company. We added another co-founder, technical co-founder named Arsenio, and we actually started Circa, based around the idea that the mobile production, consumption, and distribution model is actually very, very broken today.
Totally. So you're not obviously involved day to day on that, and they've been running it pretty well.
Yeah, so Matt, Arsenio, David Cohen, who's the editor, the chief content officer. We just hired a 4th executive level person at Circa, John Maloney, who was the former president of Tumblr. And so it's a great team. The investor list is amazing. The product is phenomenal. I think Matt's one of the best consumer product guys out there right now. So the product gets better and better. They're running up to a new release in the next 2 weeks. So it's fun to watch kind of the thing that I helped guide with the idea, get taken by somebody and actually really brought to life in his own way.
So it's looking to disrupt the mobile news space.
Absolutely. In fact, Circa was kind of early to the space, and a whole bunch of other news startups like Vox and Inside and a bunch of other mobile apps kind of came out after we did. And it's been this kind of renaissance of how journalism is done. Yeah. Instead of people trying to get you to click on more slideshows of boobs, it's more about what is news, how do you actually convey information and knowledge.
So with that, have you taken what you've learned from Circa and then applied it back to Cheezburger?
Absolutely. One of the things I learned is that this whole time as being an entrepreneur, I've only been the entrepreneur. I've only been the guy who's running the business. Right. And with Circa, I was a board member, an advisor, and a co-founder, but my real role was to help the CEO.
Right.
Not to be the CEO, not to make the decisions, but to help the CEO to be the best CEO he could be.
Right.
And so I took that lesson, and I'm a sole founder at Cheezburger. So if you ever start a company and you want to be the only founder, good luck to you. Because it's really hard. It's lonely even if you have co-founders and you're the CEO, but it's super lonely when you feel like there's no one else you can turn to, no co-founders to share the burden with. And so I ended up bringing in this guy named Scott Moore, the Cheezburger. He's the president and chief operating officer. Okay. And so he runs the majority of the company and the day-to-day operations. Yep. And to me, that was like bringing in a partner. Good. And that was really important for me to do because I need to make sure that I can be at my best, and if you're doing too much stuff, you can't be.
Right, that's very cool. All right, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to have Talia come up here and join us. I'm going to have you slide over, and then we're going to end up doing a little Q&A. So, Talia, come on up here. Watch your step. It's a trick. First step. Ready? Yeah. Actually, if you're in the back and you can hear me in the back? Yeah. Just tell the person next to you that. Shh. There you go. Just keep it down a little bit. Yeah, or if you want, come grab a seat. There's plenty of seats up here. All right. We tried. They're a rowdy crowd back there. Somebody's feeding them drinks, I think. All right, so Talia, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So her company, is it Evid?
Yep.
Is that how you pronounce it? Some people say Eved. I don't think that's right.
Reeved, yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Another company that's disrupting a space. This space is actually the event space. And you've been doing this for quite a while as well. So you've almost a similar timeline. So I wanted to just give you a little bit of chance to kind of share what you're doing and how you got started with it.
Sure, so Evid is disrupting the meeting and event space. And it's actually a very large space. People don't even necessarily realize from a business side. So obviously we're in an event and you can get together and being able to have that human interaction is so powerful. But from a business perspective, they spend over $500 billion a year. And it's a marketing channel for internal, external, and it's just one of these spend categories that's not managed. It's still paper, pencil. And I got into it, I actually, right out of business school, I've never worked in a job. I've never worked for anyone else. So right out of school, I started companies and I've always done it. And my husband was actually a musician, and he would do corporate events. So I learned about the space by just kind of coming with him to those and in the hotels, and they would say, hey, you know what, there's more opportunities for you to be able to expand your band business. And I looked at them and I said, well, actually I was at Hilton Chicago, and he said, well, it's not just bands. These corporations come into these hotels and they have all these other needs that they have, and our people have to manually do it. Here's a great opportunity. And I was just introduced to the space, and one of the things I loved, I did go to business school, and I love marketing, and I love business automation. So one of the things I saw was this huge space that was so manual, and I said, you know what, this is going to be a really big opportunity. But I knew nothing about events at all. The most that I did was plan my wedding. So I actually built my own local event company in Chicago and built the technology to run that actual business so I could figure it out and learn it in order to be able to build this global platform that corporations can actually use.
So give an example just so everyone understands. So XYZ company is trying to plan a big banquet or something. You guys, they basically go into your software and figure out all the vendors, or how does that work?
Yeah, so one of our big customers is Dell. Okay. And obviously live events, Dell World, a lot of those things are a huge marketing channel for them. Right. They have, maybe 100 event planners across the world. And from a procurement perspective, they want to aggregate that buying power across all of those event managers. So believe it or not, a lot of these companies that are even spending millions of dollars, these event managers can just go and find and use whoever they want and hand over hundreds of thousands of dollars, which just seems so crazy. But they don't have a centralized place to be able to find and to be able to know who the company wants them to use. So it starts with that, and then being able to actually go through the entire process of procuring them, getting the invoices, and actually paying the suppliers.
So obviously you're at a certain point, you've raised a lot of capital here, about 11 million.
Yep.
So obviously you didn't start there. I think your story was a little bit, to begin with, like most startup stories, was you funded it yourself for quite some time. I heard that you basically took a second mortgage or something on your house.
I did. So the first company, the event company, we started it, and originally everyone kind of thinks that they have to go get money when they start a company. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned is everyone said to me, don't just assume you have to go get money, but talk to the people who are giving money out. Why? Because they're going to critique your idea. If they don't believe that it's worth investing in, then you've got to really take your idea back and say, is it worth it for me to be able to invest it? So it was a great validation. But I really kind of said, I'm going to go as long as I could without it. And we wound up being, it was really like, we had about $350,000 that we took out a credit line, and we were literally down to the last $50,000. And it was the event. We were trying to get contracts within the hotels, and it just drags on. And I don't know anyone who started companies, like that first sale, you think you have it, and then it goes and it goes. And then my husband's like, okay, you got the $50,000. When that's it, you're out. Okay, you're going to go work for a company for the first time. And it was literally at that moment we were just there that finally, like, the Hilton signed with us, and then the Palmer House signed with us, and we literally went from, in that October, we did about $400,000 worth of business from October to December, and the next year we did $4 million worth of business. Wow. So it was, and then we wound up taking the business very profitable and decided that this was the one to not raise on. Right. But then when I sold that event company and launched the technology, I took the first $1 million. So I went back to being in a place, and I went back into that credit line because I wanted to get it as far as I could before I actually brought in outside investors.
That makes sense. And you've got a few now, so you've got some local investors. Yes,
we've got Pritzker Group, which is a great local investor here in Chicago. MK Capital is also from Chicago. And then we've also got some really great angels that sit on our strategic board. So Jay Shikowitz, who just sold Fieldglass to SAP for over $1 billion.
I actually was just with Fieldglass last night.
He's awesome, and he's an investor as well as on our board. We've got Bob Montgomery, who was the CEO of Career Builder. A lot of really, Bob Solomon, who built Ariba Network, sits on our board. So really great people around us.
And so you got it far enough along to get investors, and what's your end goal with it? In general?
So when we went for this, I said, you know what, if I'm leaving this, I would call it the event business. While it was hard in the beginning, I got it to a point where it was profitable, and I guess you could call it was a great lifestyle business. And I was walking away from, after working really hard from, quite a lot of money every year, and it was easier at that point. But, you have aspirations as an entrepreneur, we're pretty crazy. And I said, you know what, I could do more. And this is an open space, and I saw an opportunity to build $1 billion company, and I thought to myself, if I don't go for it, I'll never say that I actually went for what I thought my true potential was. So we're going for the $1 billion company.
There we go. So let's talk a bit about how you manage that, like as a CEO, founder. Ben talked a little bit about how he manages his team and how he's grown the culture. Can you share a little bit about what your culture's like and how you grow the team?
Yeah, I think it's important. The people around you are really the ones who help you build it. You don't do anything on your own. You lead them. You have a vision. Your goal. You need people who are going to buy into your vision. But really, I think a lot of the hard work happens by everyone else around you. So it's important to me that the people who work with us feel that they're a part of the company, that they own the company, that their contribution is significant to the success, and it's not just all about the founder or the entrepreneur.
Right. Okay, so you're here in Chicago, you're pretty involved with the community as well, you're on the board, I think, 1871. How did you get so involved?
So it's very interesting to watch how Chicago has changed the startup community. When I started the first event company in 2004, there was nobody who was especially in technology, that you could go to for any kind of support. There was no 1871. So the 1871 is actually run by the CEC. And it was just starting with David Weinstein at the time, and we did pretty well. We wound up on the Inc. 500, and someone introduced it and said, "Hey, this is a great organization." Michael Farrow, also a great tech entrepreneur, was leading that at the time, and wound up introducing me. And that's how the only way that I was able to network and meet any other technology entrepreneurs. There just weren't a lot of them. And you look at that growth now, and it's unbelievable how much that has changed. It's a totally different environment than what I had.
Yeah, totally. I mean, even last year is different than this year.
Absolutely.
So, how do you do all that? Like I also know personally you have a family, right?
I have 5 kids.
Right. So, 5 kids.
Yeah.
CEO and founder of a company, on the board of 1871 and probably other things as well. How do you balance?
It's really hard. I wish I could come up here and say I've got it all set, but every day I work at it. I think the most important thing is that you can't do everything yourself, and you can't do it all at once. and you need really great people around you, both at home and at work. But it is a daily challenge. It's important to me to raise my kids, to make sure that they wind up successful, and it's important to me to raise this company. Right. One of the Twitter columns I have is, building a company while raising a family, and there's actually a lot of different things that are very similar to it.
Yeah. So what would be one thing if someone was asked, what's one piece of advice you'd give for that balance?
Remember what's really important to you. I think you have to first sit and think about, at the end of the day, what are your most important priorities, and make sure you don't compromise it. I have a lot of, sometimes business opportunities. I give up. All these different people I haven't met or I haven't done because it was my kid's first day of school or it was something important to them. And you're always going to be challenged. There's always going to be a lot of things you can do, and you just have to keep remembering what your priorities are.
There's only 24 hours. Last time I checked, every day.
You do the best advice is remind yourself that you do the best you can with whatever it is that you've got to work with.
Right. And it's actually really interesting. There's a lot of folks, I don't know how, do you guys sleep a lot? Like, do you sleep 8 hours, 7 hours? 9 hours. 9 hours, wow. I've been meeting a lot of people that are doing this 4-hour sleep pattern. I don't think
that doesn't work for me either.
No, I'd be a mess. Okay, so let's talk. Should we open it up for questions? Do you think that they're rowdy still back there?
They are pretty rowdy.
Okay. We'll let them keep going, but you guys are gonna share a mic.
Share a mic.
We can open up for Q&A. Who's got some questions for these folks? All right, in the green there, you're gonna have to shout it and we're gonna have to repeat it.
How do you choose your employees? What are some of the key attributes of good employees?
So what are the key attributes of good employees? Who wants to jump on that one?
So we have a saying that's it's attitude over aptitude. Aptitude is a table stakes. In other words, you have to be good at what you do in order to be qualified for the job. But we're always looking for the person with the right perspective in life and the world to actually make it through startup land. Because this is not like a big company where we give you kind of, here's how you're supposed to do things, here's what you know, here's all this training. We sometimes train you in the wrong things, and we sometimes tell you that to do things one way when really the answer is wrong and you have to do something else. And without the right attitude of curiosity and wanting to figure that out, it's really difficult for them to be successful.
I would say 3 things: passion, work ethic, and a level of intelligence. And if you got those 3 things, they can really grow into what you want them to be.
Great question. All right, next up, who's got another one for us? Don't be shy. I knew it. I knew he was going to ask a question. Yeah.
This is for both of you, but prior to, I know that you said that you started without any venture capital, or did you have anybody helping you when you started out? And if so, how did you keep volunteers motivated? Who's going to pay you?
How did you get people to help you when you had no money? You were basically funding it yourself.
Well, I funded it with the first $1 million, so I paid them. But you're always going to find, you're not going to pay them what they can get anywhere else. Right. So you really, I think the most exhausting probably job is that you're constantly on and responsible and need to motivate, because as Ben said, there's ups and downs. And in the downs, your job is to give the confidence and to say we're going to get there, and for people to believe that. Because anyone, I think, who comes to a startup, you're not coming to go to work at 9 o'clock and come back at 5 and be done. You're going because you want to be a part of something, you want to build something, and I think it's a very unique opportunity to be able to do that. And so you may take a little bit less money, but then also you incentivize with options. So everyone in our company has options. So everyone becomes an owner right away, and the longer you stay and the better you perform, you can increase those options.
So we raised $2.25 million of angel-related capital when we started as a company. And the reason was that one of our strategies was to go acquire assets, right? So we needed that funds to begin with. And so I couldn't do that just because I showed up at town and said, hey guys, I got a new business idea. I did that because there was an angel investor who was also a serial entrepreneur in town that I was friends with, and he's actually the one who said, do you want to buy this website? And that's how the whole story got started, and I ended up taking a lot of personal risk to get us there, but it was really at that point helping the network to help you and convincing them of the math and the finances behind how this should work. So,
good questions. We got another one here.
So, as the leader, how do you balance the opportunity cost of chasing VC money versus raising revenue by driving more, the ability to gain more sales? What kind of decision process?
All right, so how do you weigh your options whether it be chasing VC money or chasing sales? Like, how do you figure out which one is more important?
So revenue is much more important. Take revenue any day over VC money. You want to, anything possible to not take additional funds outside is the best thing you can do. So, and even when you go for money, you really want to think about, by taking that money, how much more you're going to be able to scale the business. Then, sometimes you might say, hey, this could be a really great, $100 million business, and we're okay. But if we go to 300 million, we'll go to 300 million. But because I've spread that pie so much more, I actually have less. So you really have to think about how that money is going to be used and how it's going to grow the company. But always, always, always invest in revenue.
yeah, a dollar revenue is worth so much more than a dollar of VC money. Because that VC money, while it's not a loan, it's an obligation against future performance. Right? So you have to actually grow the business, your revenues, your top lines, your metrics, to justify the next round of valuation to make that VC happy. And so it's an obligation that you have to fulfill.